The attitude of some of the bishops in this crisis of abuse brought on by modernism is almost staggering. At least it would be if it wasn't for the fact that very little surprises any of us anymore. It is business as usual in the Church of the New Advent, with talk of mercy and social justice continuing to pour forth from the mouths of our erstwhile shepherds, despite allegations being made public that the Pope covered up the abuse of his own altar boys. It's business as usual despite allegations that Cardinal Bernardin was a literal Satan worshipper, and that not only did Cardinal Cupich know about these allegations, he purposely hid them from state investigators when they asked for all the documents related to clerical sexual abuse, and that the action of hiding those documents is actually a felony for those who weren't aware. It's business as usual when the German bishops are getting to use the plight of indigenous people in the Amazon as an excuse to promote open heresy and apostasy, despite the cries of the laity to stop coming from literally every corner of the globe. In other words, it's business as usual in the church the modernists built. And why is that? Because they think you're stupid. Let's get into this because it's worth exploring on this otherwise a slow news day. But first, this channel is made possible by the support of the viewers. With YouTube recently moving to demonetize all voices who don't support the agenda of the enemies of the church, your support is needed now more than ever. For as little as $1 a month, you can help keep this channel growing. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so by heading over to Subscribestar or Patreon and joining a growing community of viewers like you who take part in patron-only live streams, as well as other perks coming soon that come with support. Options for supporting this channel are in the description of the video. Thanks, and on to the news of the day. Yes, they think you're stupid. Or ignorant, which isn't all that much better. But ignorance and stupidity are different things, despite people lazily conflating those two words. Ignorance means not knowing something, or not possessing knowledge about something. So, for example, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to jet aircraft maintenance or the criminal distribution of controlled substances. I'm ignorant of the practices of the Diana worshippers in the neo-pagan religion. I'm ignorant of how to make a baked Alaska and other complex science-defying dessert items. But one thing I am not, nor are you, is stupid. We're all ignorant about something. We all lack knowledge or information about some things, but most people aren't actually all that stupid. But plenty of Catholics around the world simply do not know about the state of the church, and our erstwhile shepherds are banking on that ignorance to run the church into the ground. Part of that ignorance is the product of a purposeful misinformation campaign waged by the propagandists in mainstream and even some alternative news Catholic outlets on behalf of the status quo in the church. Believe it or not, there are people who are perfectly fine with declining mass attendance, with laity who rarely go to confession but always receive communion, with a faith that isn't timeless but is always changing to suit the demands of the world. Many of these figures are in positions of power and influence to work on behalf of those people who are directly responsible for maintaining a crisis in the church that has been growing and unfolding for at least 2 centuries now. Francis did not come out of nowhere, he didn't accidentally find himself in the Petrine office. Cardinal Cupich, friend of this channel, didn't find himself accidentally in a position to defend sexual predators and to send good priests to a re-education facility that would brand them by proxy as possible predators. Pietro Parolin, the cardinal who had a gay drug-fueled orgy in his Roman apartments that was raided by the police, with numerous priests participating in the orgy, did not come out of nowhere. And their continued presence in the church is made possible, at least in part, by the sycophantic activities of figures in the mainstream establishment media. Do I have a concrete example of this? Sure, I have a couple, actually. First, take a look at this tweet by professional Francis fanfiction writer Austin Ivere. He writes in reference to a now former writer for the Catholic Herald, expressing his disdain at the new pro-Francis direction of the Herald. Quote, "No wonder the new owners of the Catholic Herald couldn't let him stay. He's gone full raving vegano. Francis is probably the least corrupt person on the planet." End quote. Okay, there's a lot there. If you weren't aware, the Catholic Herald has just been bought by figures who decided to destroy that media outlet by making it far more establishment-friendly. Some writers decided to leave or were terminated as a consequence, including Damian Thompson, who's getting quote tweeted here. Now, as for what Youre said, it reflects the attitude we encounter if we mention Vigano outside of traditional and conservative Catholic circles, an attitude that paints him as a traitor or a lunatic, and that anyone who believes him is on the wrong side of history. This is, of course, a laughable claim in the face of a growing apostasy and growing evidence of the cover-up of abuse reaching to the very highest levels of the hierarchy. But again, Youre is someone who has made his career in maintaining access to the papacy for decades now. He has written official biographies of figures besides Francis, and his career would be over if he started speaking in defense of the truth. The other example comes from Cardinal Cupich, from again, on Twitter. I always wonder if these guys run their own Twitter accounts like President Trump does, or if they have some assistant or something doing it. But tweets like this provide confirmation that, at least sometimes, they do indeed run their own Twitter accounts. Cupich here is quoting a figure whose shoes he's not fit to tie, St. Augustine. Quote, "The less people concentrate on their own sins, the more interested they become in the sins of others. Unable to excuse themselves, they are ready to accuse others." End quote. That's pretty rich coming from Cupich, who is accused of covering up the unspeakable alleged crimes of Cardinal Bernardin, and in aiding the promotion of other unfit men to the episcopate, and not tolerating priests who promote and defend sexual orthodoxy in Catholic moral teaching. Yet here we are, with the good cardinal taking a page out of his boss's handbook, and accusing others of sins as a defense mechanism. Honestly, if I hear another reference to the Great Accuser the next time Vigano or someone else points the finger at something Francis probably did, I might flip out. And I know I'm not the only one. That may sound like an extreme reaction, but I can only take being treated like I'm an idiot for so long. Over the weekend, Francis said that most of his detractors are from North America and are rich dissenters. Nice. That's actually pretty great. I know that most of the subscribers to this channel aren't wealthy, nor the vast majority of traditionalists and even conservative Catholics. We come from all walks of life and all levels of wealth and prosperity. And I know that most of these alternative media outlets aren't really doing well financially either. Yet he hurls that insult at us because he has no real response to the crisis, but to hurl insults. He can get away with it because of the office he is presumed to hold. His supporters, like Cupich and Youre, get away with it because of the alliances they formed and because most Catholics simply aren't aware of what's going on in the church right now. It's as simple as that. Ignorance is deadly in this battle to save the soul of the church, and they take advantage of it. There are Catholics among us right now who buy completely the lie they're being told, that there really isn't a problem right now, that the coming German exploitation of the indigenous Amazonians is going to be just fine, and don't worry if those changes show up in your parish soon, because the Pope and bishops are free to change the faith. There are Catholics who believe that sexual immorality and morally unfit men for the priesthood actually belong in the priesthood, and some believe these things not out of malice, but out of complete ignorance of the state of the church, out of complete ignorance out of how these things are linked to the crisis in the church, and in far too many cases, they are ignorant of the demands of the faith itself. And that is the worst part, because the ignorance of the faith literally leads souls to hell every single day. And it is why I have such little tolerance for the lies coming out of the establishment, or those who even inadvertently defend the status quo, or make compromises with the secular or religious status quo in the name of the traditional faith. Souls are at stake, and it should be apparent that many of these figures do not share the faith with the rest of us. If I'm right about that assertion, it means that those of us who at least try to live the Catholic faith have a greater responsibility to correct the record, to essentially re-evangelize our neighbors, and to re-catechize them when the opportunity arises in accordance with our state in life. It's a scary situation the Church is in, and our duties as Catholics is to defend the Bride of Christ from the attacks leveled on her by the ravening wolves. There are a lot of ways you can do that, including making sure that Catholics are aware of how bad things really are, and that they are making sure that they pray their rosaries and make frequent confessions. And of course, you can do that by supporting the work of people doing this kind of media work, not just my channel, though the support I receive is wonderful and leaves me in awe of my subscribers, but other channels as well, and print Catholic media who keep the faith, and other outlets. So support the work of us who do this work by sharing our podcasts and articles with friends who think things are fine and dandy in the church right now, or share the work of those who are trying to promote traditional devotions in the church and traditional moral teachings, or simply take a hands-on approach of trying to help your fellow Catholics in reclaiming the traditional faith for themselves. We all have this duty, and we need to step up to the task. If you're tired of being treated like you're stupid by your betters in the establishment and in the hierarchy, then I know you'll find a way to rise to that challenge. As always, thank you for listening and for your support. Like I said, I am in awe of the support I get from my subscribers, so I thank you all for the support I receive. But please pray and make personal sacrifices for the church. It is more important now than ever before. Remember to pray a rosary and get to confession. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.